address.
Okay, so therefore, in terms of his domestic focus, remember this is President Obama after 6 odd years of his administration. The fact is that US employment numbers have been the highest perhaps in the last decade. So he's already scored that point domestically. What more can he expect from India, which itself has millions of people who are clamoring for jobs? Isn't that focus wrong on behalf of the United States to expect a country like India to create jobs for it?
Let's now also, not just jobs, but let's also talk about the nuclear deal.
Okay.
There are huge companies waiting for these small wrinkles. I don't think they're very small, but wrinkles to be ironed out.
But they want the kind of guarantees that no sovereign nation can perhaps give them.
We cannot. And that's the greatest challenge of this visit.
Okay, that's the greatest challenge of the visit. On that note, let me go back to Rajiv Dogra. Mr. Dogra, okay, so we don't have Mr. Rajiv Dogra with us. We have Nish Acharya of Gateway House. Welcome to the show, Nish. Let me ask you about that point. If you heard Pawan Khera speak about that, is therefore the possibility of a breakthrough on the nuclear deal? That is something that we've all been speculating about. And earlier today, when I spoke to someone in the administration, he said perhaps a breakthrough announcement is imminent, but we are sort of, we have no hint of what that would be, because there were several very, very sticky areas as far as that goes. Is there a possibility from your point of view of a breakthrough at all happening?
So I think it's unlikely that we see an announcement of a breakthrough, first and foremost, because this is not necessarily the topic that's going to take up the President and Prime Minister's time this afternoon. They're going to talk about much bigger global issues like climate change and the geopolitics around Russia, Iran, oil prices, China, and then maybe third about this issue. And the details are so specific, they need to be worked out by Secretary Kerry, Minister Swaraj, and others. And so I think it's important, and it's brought up a lot by the press because there's so much work that's already been done on the nuclear issue dating back to the Bush administration. And everybody feels this need for closure to get it done so that we can start laying the foundation for nuclear power plants and all of that. But I think the details are still fairly sticky, and it's probably not good policy to rush through something in the next 2 days that could have problems later on. So I think it's fairly unlikely you see anything substantive in the next 2 days.
Okay, so on the issues that you spoke about, let's say the South China Sea, or what's happening in Russia, or the security situation that prevails in the Middle East, ISIS, the fact that there are certain small quarters, if I may put it that way, in the United States who want a greater involvement on behalf of India in terms of foots on the people on the ground to fight America's wars. None of this really is something on which you can expect India to do pretty much anything other than offer consolatory words and perhaps just a comment or two. So what are we going to get out of this visit if the US nuclear deal, according to you, is third or fourth on the priority list?
So I think there's only a fringe element of the US body politic that thinks that India would actually fight on behalf of the United States. I don't think that's where the vast majority of serious citizens would be. I think what people would like to see is that because India has a unique relationship with Russia, has a unique relationship with Iran, can it play a bigger role on the broad global stage in bringing these issues to better resolution? So in other words, the United States has its position, the Russians have its position. The one country that speaks fairly well to both is India, and how do we get India more engaged? That doesn't necessarily mean taking the United States point of view all the time, but it means having faith and trust.
How sure are you about India's current dialogue status with Russia? Frankly, there are several commentators who would say that the India-US-Russia relationship isn't really making any headway. We have several unresolved issues. We have the Russians who have a severe grouse over the way their investments have been treated in India, including what happened with Systema. We have the perception within the Russian establishment that India is not really serious about buying their equipment, and we have this genuine feeling on the Indian side that the Russians are just trying to sell us very costly equipment of all sorts.
So those are all fair points, and I certainly am not an expert on the Russia-India relationship, but I think the point most Americans would make is that still, with all that being true, India still has a deeper relationship with Russia. And so in terms of trust, there's a lot of trust there amongst the leadership in both places, these issues that you've mentioned aside. And that's where the role of honest broker, of connector with either Iran or Russia is very important for India to play, much like it does as the bridge between the developing world and the United States on issues like climate change. So I think what the U.S. wants to see is more of more bringing India closer to the dialogue than perhaps it's ready to be. And likewise, I think India would like to see the U.S. understand its positions a little bit better and why it might be difficult for India to do that in terms of sitting right in the middle of a dispute with Russia.
Okay, Aditi Phadnis, when Prime Minister Modi came back from the United States, I noticed a poster on one of these New Delhi roundabouts, and that poster said, "Welcome to global leader Prime Minister Narendra Modi." Is all of the foreign policy burst of activity that the Prime Minister has unleashed, and fairly so, enhancing the role of India in global affairs of the kind that the speaker just before you, Mr. Acharya, alluded to? Do you think all of this pitchforks Mr. Modi to that level where he can play the role of the honest broker that Mr. Acharya just referred to?
Well, India has to guard its national interest and cannot be seen as forwarding America's national interest. I think that's something that nobody can deny. When Mr. Modi made his first foreign presence in a multilateral forum felt in Fortaleza in Brazil, I think he was asked a question and he said, well, if India has 200 billion people and there are a lot of children, and if you go to any school and ask any child who is India's greatest friend in the world, the answer will be Russia. Having said that, when President Putin came to India, and on his delegation was one of the most important leaders of Ukraine who ensured that the referendum on Ukraine went through bloodlessly. He was part of Mr. Putin's delegation, and the Americans were absolutely gobsmacked over this because it sent a signal that India was simply not prepared to play ball on the issue of Ukraine. And frankly, that is as it should be, because I don't think with the closeness of ties between India and Russia that India will, wordlessly or in gestures endorse everything that America expects it to endorse or to sign on the dotted line. It won't. Similarly, on the issue of the MMRCA of the fighter combat aircraft which was to be given, the contract did not go to Boeing, it did not go to Lockheed Martin, it went to Rafale, which is a European consortium. I believe that there is some questions about this now, and there may be further renegotiations on the contract because the RFP is not being fully honored by Dassault and other members of the consortium, and the Americans can see a window opening there. But frankly, I mean, India cannot be an honest broker by jeopardizing its own interests in the whole world scenario. So I'm not sure if
India cannot jeopardize
whatever India's profile in the world, whether Mr. Modi, who is an extremely shrewd and
Go ahead, Aditi, complete your point, please.
So if Mr. Modi is a very shrewd negotiator, and I don't think he is going to steer India into a situation where its own interests are put in question.
Okay, which way, Vijay Chauthaiwale, is Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister, steering India as far as our foreign policy direction goes?
I think, as Aditi has very aptly said, he will keep India's interest at a supreme level, and the relation with one country cannot be at the cost of another country. There can be, this is a multilateral word, and wherever our interest lies.
But our relationship with Russia, for a moment, if you could comment about that, there hasn't been a substantiative change after the new administration has come in here.
I would not say that. Our cooperation is still going on very well. It may not be as obvious as we have done in case of Indo-US relationship because of the kind of background it has started with. But I would say that Indo-Russia relationship is not the victim of growing Indo-US relationship.
That's a good point. It's not the victim of a growing India-US relationship. But beyond the United States, in terms of the world vision that this government is going to pursue, what do you think should be the other priorities? We have seen a near India focus by the Prime Minister, which has been universally welcomed, by the way.
Yeah. No, but he is also taking a big interest in the BRICS country. He had already been to Brazil. Is going to Germany in April to open a trade fair where India is first time again is a partner country with Germany in Hanover Trade Fair. So he has a global vision, and he will go strategically wherever our interest lies. His vision of Make in India, his vision of creating more jobs and employment in India,
right,
and opening Indian market to other countries. Wherever he finds the resonance, he will address those countries.
Okay, Satish Mishra, strategic non-alignment, is that the caption with which we can describe Prime Minister Modi's approach?
I mean, I would not confine him to strategic non-alliance.
Okay.
But fact remains that after all, foreign policy is nothing else but preservation of vital national interest. And that is what Prime Minister Modi is doing about. So I mean, he went to Japan.
So no, Satish, give me a headline therefore. If I were to ask you, what is it that you would describe Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy approach as? In those terms, how would you write it?
I would say nationalistic foreign policy.
Nationalistic foreign policy. Pawan, how different would it be from what the Congress under Manmohan Singh pursued for the last 10 years before it was wiped out?
Rich in content, poor in optics.
Okay, rich in content, poor in optics. Tell us why. Was it because Manmohan Singh could never see beyond the content?
I think he had a lot of content to talk about. The nuclear deal about which we are discussing. Everything, whatever happens today on the nuclear deal will be built on what was done during the Manmohan Singh era.
That's a fair point. Even the BJP acknowledges it. And to be fair to the BJP, I think despite all what the media wrote about, it was the Prime Minister who picked up, Aadhaar, for instance, once he saw the benefits. So I think there has been a bipartisan approach on that.
Yes, but this visit of President Obama is the test for Modi administration also. Is it just optics or is there substance?
If for you, what would constitute as substance?
Trade. How does he build on the Make in India vision of his, if there is a vision there? What is the takeaway for India? How many jobs do we get out of this visit? These are the deliverables that will decide whether this is just optics or there is more.
Okay, jobs for Indians from this visit.
I mean, that is what Prime Minister Modi promised to India during his election campaign. And if he can't deliver that, then obviously this visit would not lead to anything. Fact remains that Indo-US relationship will be defined by economy, by economics, by trade, by more jobs, by cooperation in different sectors which lead to build-up of India. I mean, educating young people, giving them skills, and all that includes that whether they are good at jobs or not.
Okay. Nish Acharya, in terms of the Indian expectation from BJP, a political analyst, a member of a strategic think tank, what is it that India can expect as far moving outside the strategic sphere, outside the high level dialogue, for instance, when it comes to security cooperation, intelligence sharing, better coordination when it comes to global terror, but on a more mass based platform, what are the optics for India that can be expected?
Yes. So I actually tend to focus, I think the optics discussions been a little bit out of control here in the media for the last few weeks. I think the substance of this is what's really important, because we've had too many starts and stops on the relationship over the last few decades. Bill Clinton, George Bush had some ups and downs. Prime Minister Vajpayee, Prime Minister Singh. So to me, there's two fundamental issues. The first will be climate change. In December, we have the important meeting in Paris where the nations of the world have to come to agreement on targets. And the U.S. and China have already come to a side agreement on that issue. And so it's paramount that the Indians in the United States, the Indian government and the United States government come to a similar agreement. And what that means is both sides will need to move towards each other, and in particular on technology transfer and on investment. So if the United States really wants India to achieve its targets, it's going to have to do massive tech transfer, investment, and unique agreements to allow India to commercialize clean technologies. And secondly, I think on these issues of Make in India, a real understanding, the Indians will need to push the United States essentially to say, what will be your role in Make in India? I think it's nice when the CEO of Boeing and others talk about them building a factory in India. It's very important, actually. But those are advanced manufacturing companies that will not be creating hundreds of millions of jobs. And so a better sort of discussion and a better understanding from the U.S. in terms of what is it that your companies will be bringing to India. Is it going to be advanced technology and manufacturing that we can use to move up scale? Or are you going to actually transfer from some of your manufacturing partnerships in China and bring low-skilled manufacturing? So I think the Indians really need to push for an understanding of what it is that corporate America can bring to India that will actually create jobs over the next decade and 2 decades.
Well, that's a fair point. In fact, corporate America has been talking about several things, and the taxation architecture left behind in the last years of the UPA government is something that bothers everyone across the board, on record and off record. And the second issue has been land. As far as land goes, some steps have been taken. As far as tax goes, again some steps have been taken. But we'll continue that discussion on what else to expect from this visit after a quick break. Don't go away.